I would like to commend all of you that are speaking to each other right now, because I want to give you something that could change your life right now. When you play golf, any golfers? My condolences. Okay, so when you play golf and you've got this book, you go and you get some lessons. Okay, when you're struggling with your health, you go to the doctor. If you're struggling with your relationship, a great relationship coach can make the world of difference. So when somebody comes up and says, tell your partner how much you love them and what you love about them, and you do it, you're the winners. You got out of your comfort zone and you did what was necessary to make it work, not necessarily what felt comfortable. Right, now, go back to your first date. I want you to remember very vividly your first date. And I want you to remember who asked who to go out. I want you to remember where you went. And I want you to remember the emotions around that, the nerves around that. And the person who did not ask the other person, okay? The person who got asked out on that date. Will you give your partner a high five and say, thank you for inviting me out? This is a great time to ask what marriage is about. I think there's a bit of a story about the first date over here, so I don't want to cause any breakups. This is a great time to ask what marriage is about, and in my opinion, marriage is different to everyone. It's a deeply personal agreement between two people. There are no identical marriages. So my first strong impression to all of you today is that while positive role models are important, and yes, often it's the failures that know the pitfalls, listen intently to everyone's story, but don't try to be like any other couple on earth. You are 100% individual, and your marriage will be 100% unique. Just be beautiful you. And Felicia, I would love to honor you this evening for coming up and opening your heart and being vulnerable and showing us that marriage is tough. I met my wife many years ago, and I'd like to just briefly tell you my story. When I was a youngster, all I wanted was to find someone who loved me that I could be with. I used to say to my friends, does Jill love you? Yes. And do you love her? Yes. Wow. And I had a couple of false starts. I enjoyed them tremendously. But eventually, 26 years ago, met Jackie. We got married 21 years ago. And yes, my daughter's 18 years old. And I want you to know that I have found great fulfillment and personal development in my marriage. I met a couple the other day. I was at a wedding. In fact, it wasn't a couple, it was a single person. And asked if she was married. And she said, no, how can you, married people, they eat chicken for dinner every night. And I said to them, yep, that's true. But I eat chicken with salad, I eat chicken with potatoes, I eat chicken and chips, I eat curry chicken. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I spice it up. Just because you come home to the same person every night doesn't mean they have to act in the same way. You can be different. So to me, the miracle of marriage is that of the 7 billion people on earth, the two of you found each other. And of all of the potential partners you've had the opportunity of choosing, you chose each other. And that is very, very powerful. The universe brought you together. And from that moment on, and from the moment you were married, you became monogamous and committed. To me, marriage is very interesting. To be married, you give up certain rights, and you gain certain rights. For example, you give up your right to hold someone else's hand in the movies, right? But you gain the belief and the trust that your partner will also only choose you. But please take one piece of advice from me, because I can assure you with 100% conviction that you are both different as well as being the same. That you have things you will agree on and things you will argue about. That both of you have many wonderful personality traits and some rather nasty ones. That there will be different values, different wants and needs, different expectations of yourself and each other. People often ask me, my goodness, Stephen, how do you make 21 years of marriage? I tell them, it's relatively simple. Just don't get divorced. It seems to just creep up on you. Thank you. And within that piece of humor, there's a pearl of wisdom. When the tough times come, and they will, just keep on keeping on. Before you know it, it's 20 years, and then 30 years, 40 years, 60 years. And you're sitting on the stoop talking about the great-grandchildren. Of course, for any marriage to last a long time, you need to successfully navigate some stages. First is the courtship phase. And I like to call this the lying phase or the marketing phase, right? That's when you show each other just how wonderful you can be when you're trying your very, very best 100% of the time. The next is the living together, honeymoon, engagement stage, and everything's nice and congruent and it's all working very nicely. You then get to that problematic getting to know you properly stage. And you have to get through that before you get to the true love stage, which I like to call the friendship stage. To me, true love is more about friendship than it is about chemistry. And finally, you get into growing old together, which is really what we're all trying to achieve, right? I'd really like to elaborate very briefly on this true love stage. Scott Peck, a famous psychiatrist, defines love as one's willingness to expend energy for another's spiritual growth. Now, I love that definition because it's got nothing to do with the chemistry. It's got nothing to do with the sex. It's got nothing to do with bodies. It's got nothing to do with money. It's got to do with friendship and really caring enough about someone else to help them to grow. I have a strong belief that we're on earth for growth, personal growth, spiritual growth, soul unfoldment. And I'm so sure that both marriage and parenthood are designed to do exactly that. Keep on growing us. Dr. Demartini, my current guru, because I change them every decade, defines love as occurring at the cusp of challenge and support. You see, we need both unconditional as well as tough love in a relationship. So Felicia, you can give your stubborn husband a clap every now and again and tell him Stephen said it's fine. If we challenge only, people burn out and leave. If we're a doormat, they get bored and leave. What you need to do is keep a very clever balance of challenge and support. I believe that one of the reasons Jaxie and I are still together after 26 years is because she gives me so much trouble. She keeps me on my toes, she keeps me awake, and she keeps me alert. So my second piece of advice today is, firstly, accept yourself for who you are. Then accept your partner for who they are. And then please, don't try to change each other. become best friends and remain best friends. Don't take each other for granted. Don't rest on your laurels, and recognize that marriage is a tough, hard, long, beautiful, fulfilling, worthwhile path. To me, marriage is about taking someone with you on this incredible journey called life, pooling financial, emotional, physical, and mental resources, and reaching out to create a more fulfilling existence. It's about having a constant companion, a best friend to talk to, someone you can trust with your life, and a best friend to grow old with. I want to ask you, how many of you believe, and this is a trick question, so be careful, how many of you believe that you are married to your best friend? Thank you. And how many of you feel that you are best friends to your mate, your partner? All right, so here's my definition of friendship. Are you all sitting down? So when a friend comes to me and says, my best friend comes to me and says, Stephen, I need to talk to you. I went out the other night and I drank too much and I drove home drunk. I go, oh, Trevor, that's naughty. It's very bad, but I still love you. My other friend comes and might say, Stephen, I went out the other day and I drank too much, and even though I'm married, I kissed another girl. I say, oh, John, that's very bad, but I still love you. How many of you could do that for your partner? Jax, that's not a license for you to go out and kiss anyone if you don't mind. So I'd like to share with you one thing that is very important, and you may have seen earlier on my slides the yin-yang symbol, and that's not a religious symbol to me. This is about